right, let's dive into this video. We're going to be learning how to find the area underneath the curve using limits and sigma notation. We're going to go through two examples together. This is one of the last topics that you cover in a typical pre-calculus course. So we're going to be using these formulas right here. I'll explain how they work. And first thing we want to do is we want to look at this function f of x equals x squared plus 2. And that's a parabola that's been shifted up 2. And what we're going to do is we're going to find the area underneath that parabola between 0 and 2. That's this region right here. Now, it's an irregular region. It's not like I can just use the formula for like a triangle or a trapezoid or something like that. But what we're going to do is we're going to subdivide this into rectangles. We're going to find the area of those individual rectangles and we're going to add them up. Now, let's kind of analyze this for a minute. Imagine if I was to make like two rectangles. Like if I was to go like this, and go like this. And if I was to take the area of this rectangle and this rectangle, you can see that it's like an over approximation because this is, not in that region that we want below the curve and above the x-axis between 0 and 2. So you say to yourself, okay, well, why don't we maybe use 4 rectangles? Okay, so maybe like, for example, if I was to go like here and then here, so I'm making the rectangles like a half of a unit wide. And notice that I'm using the right side of the rectangle to find the height. So I go to the right side of the rectangle, I go up to the curve, and that's how I'm, making that rectangle. But when you find the area of a rectangle, what you're doing is you're taking the width times the height, width times the height, width times the height, which brings us to this formula right here. We take b minus a divided by n to get the width. Let's understand that. So the b is this right end, okay, here, and a is the left end. So this is left bound, right bound. So if I take 2 minus 0, that gives me 2, divided by n, n represents the number of rectangles. So if I have 4 rectangles, 2 divided by 4 would be a half. So they're a half wide, okay, and so that's the width. That's what this represents right here, b minus a over n. Now, if I start at a, the left bound, which in this case is 0, but then I go over 1 width. B minus a over n is like 1 width. So I go 1/2 in this case. I would take that 1/2, I'd put it into my function, okay, for x. That's going to be 1/2 squared, which is 1/4, plus 2 is 2 1/4. That's giving me the height of that rectangle. So what I have is the height times the width, and that gives me the area of one rectangle. Now, I want to add up 1, 2, in this case 4, to find the area of those 4 rectangles. That would be an approximate area. But if I take the limit as n approaches infinity, you can see that as I have more and more rectangles, they're going to get thinner and thinner, okay, until they're like paper thin. Then I'm going to get an exact area that's underneath this parabola here between 0 and 2. Okay, so you get an infinite number of rectangles, but they're infinitesimally thin, and so you get that exact area. Now, one little note about this I, this index, okay, so you can see if I was 2, I would start at A, which is 0, and I would be adding 2 widths. So I'd be adding 1/2 twice. That would take me to 1. So I'd be putting 1 into my function, and that's going to give me the height of that rectangle. If I put I is 3, I start at 0, my left bound in this case, and I add 3 widths, and then that takes me to the right side of my third rectangle. I plug that in, I get my height of my third rectangle, etc. So that's the idea. So let's see if we can find the exact area now for this problem using sigma notation. So I'm going to use this formula. Let's go ahead and write it down. We've got the area equals the limit as n approaches infinity of I equals 1 to n. These are our number of rectangles, but as n goes to infinity, we're going to get the exact area of f of a, which is 0. That's our left bound here, right at the origin, plus b minus a. B is our right bound, so it would be 2 minus 0 divided by n, the number of rectangles, times I. That's our index, 1, 2, 3, 4 rectangles like that, etc. Then our width is going to be b minus a, so 2 minus 0, over n, the number of rectangles, okay? So that's basically it. Now, if we simplify this down a little bit, of course, 0 is nothing, 2 minus 0 is 2, so we're getting f of 2 over n times I, or I could put the I in the numerator, 2I over n. 2 minus 0 is 2 over n, and then we have our summation, I equals 1 to n, and we're going to take the limit as n approaches infinity. Okay, now, let's look at this part here, 2i over n. That goes into our function. That gives us our height. We're going to replace x with 2i over n, and we're going to square it. So that's going to be 4i squared over n squared, okay, plus 2, right, and then times 2 over n. Okay, now I'm just going to distribute this 2 over n in here. So this is going to give me 8i squared over n cubed plus 4 over n. Okay, now remember this is a summation, okay? And so now what we're going to do is, let's go ahead and split this up into two separate summations. So when you have adding or subtracting, you can do these separately or individually. The other thing that you can do is when you have a constant, like see this 8 over n cubed, this is like a constant, you can bring that in front of the summation. So I'm going to write this as 8 over n cubed, I squared. This one I'm going to write as 4 over n, 1. Okay, so the n is like a constant, the number of rectangles. And remember, this is from I equals 1 to n, I equals 1 to n. I'm just abbreviating a little bit here. Okay, so let's see if we can continue on here. So I squared, we go to our formula here for finding the sum of consecutive squares. Okay, so that's this guy here. So this is going to be n times n plus 1 times 2n plus 1 all over 6 times this 8 over n cubed, okay, plus 4 over n, and then the sum of a constant is just the constant times n. Well, in this case, if the constant is 1, 1 times n is just n. Okay, so now let's simplify a little bit here. So these n's are going to cancel. One of these n's is going to cancel with one of these, making that n squared. 2 goes in here 4 times, 2 goes in here 3 times. If we FOIL this out, we get 2n squared, that's 2n plus 1n is 3n. 1 times 1 is 1. But times 4 would give you 8n squared plus 12n plus 4. Okay, all divided by 3n squared. Now, if you want, you see how this is like 4 over 1? We could get common denominators by multiplying this by 3n squared over 3n squared. So that would make this 12n squared. And now we could combine like terms. So this would be 20n squared plus 12n plus 4 all over a common denominator of 3n squared. But keep in mind, we're going to take the limit now as n approaches infinity. We're going to look at if these rectangles become infinitesimally thin, and we have an infinite number of them. But notice here, if you've learned about limits previously, you see how this highest power term in the numerator and the highest power term in the denominator, they match? They're both n squared. That means as n gets larger and larger, this is going to go to the ratio of the coefficients, 20 over 3. So this is going to come out to 20 over 3, or you could say that's like 6 2/3. So that would be the exact area, shade that in here, this exact area that's underneath the curve but above the x-axis. Let's take a look at another example. Okay, for example number 2, a little bit more challenging problem. We're going to find the area underneath the curved x cubed plus 1 in between -1 and 1. So that here's x cubed. Plus 1 means it shifts up 1. And we're finding this area right here. It's almost like a triangle, but you see how you have that curved portion? So it's between the x-axis, but below this curve between -1 and 1. Okay, so that's the area that we're after here. I'll see if I can shade it a little bit better. Okay, so we're going to use this formula now. Keep in mind that A is our left bound, -1, B is our right bound, +1. So in our formula here, we have the area equals the limit as n approaches infinity of I equals 1 to n of f of A, which is -1, plus B minus A, so that's 1 minus -1, over n, I, and then the width of our rectangle is 1 minus -1 over n. Okay, so it's a big formula, but remember, this is the width, this is the height. Width times height is area, and we're going to find the area of n rectangles, but as n goes to infinity, we're going to get the exact area underneath the curve, but above the x-axis, in between -1 and 1. Let's simplify a little bit. So just working with this part here, when you subtract, it's like adding the opposite. So we're going to get something like this. It's f of, fix that up here. We're going to get f of negative 1 plus 2I over n times 2 over n. And this is from I equals 1 to n. Limit as n approaches infinity. It's going to give us the exact area. Remember, whatever's in parentheses here goes into the function for x. So that means we're looking at negative 1 plus 2I over n cubed plus 1 times 2 over n. Okay, now notice this is a binomial cube. You learned previously the binomial expansion theorem. So remember Pascal's triangle? So if we expand this, this is going to look something like this. It's going to be 1, negative 1 cubed, 2I over n to the 0, plus 3, negative 1 squared, 2I over n, plus 3, negative 1 to the first, 2I over n squared, plus 1, negative 1 to the 0, 2I over n to the third. Okay, so that's binomial expansion theorem. It just helps us, instead of that we'd have to write negative 1 plus 2I over n 3 times and FOIL it out, we're using the binomial expansion theorem to kind of make this a little bit easier. So let's simplify. So this would give us negative 1. Anything to 0 is 1. Okay, so this comes out to negative 1. See if I can fit this here. Negative 1. This comes out to negative 1 squared is 1, times 3 is 3, so that's 6I over n. So plus 6I over n. This part here, negative 1 to the first is negative 1, times 3 is negative 3. Okay, and this is 4I squared over n squared, so that comes out to negative 12I squared over n squared. And anything to 0 is 1, times 1 is 1, and this comes out to 8I cubed over n cubed. Okay, plus this one right here, all times 2 over n. Keep in mind this is still a summation here, right? Okay, so let's simplify a little bit. So we have negative 1 and positive 1, that cancels. I'm going to distribute the 2 over n, so that's going to give me 12I over n squared minus 24I squared over n cubed. You have to be careful with the arithmetic. 16I cubed over n to the fourth. And remember, this is a summation. Now remember, you can split these up into separate summations, and you can bring the constant in front of that sigma. So I'm going to write this as 12 over n squared I minus 24 over n cubed I squared plus 16 over n to the fourth I cubed. Okay, so that's what we're going to simplify. Now, you can remember these formulas here, the sum of consecutive integers, it's n times n plus 1 over 2. So this is 12 over n squared times n plus 1 over 2 minus 24 over n cubed. Now the sum of consecutive squares, that's this formula. That's n times n plus 1 times 2n plus 1 over 6 plus 16 over n to the fourth. And then the sum of consecutive cubes, that's this formula, n squared, n plus 1 squared over 4. You can see there's a lot of arithmetic, right? When you get to calculus, there's shortcuts for all of these formulas, but let's see what we've got here. So let's see if we can get a common denominator. Let's see if we can reduce a little bit first. So 2 goes in here once, 2 goes in here 6 times. Okay, one of these ends cancels with one of these ends. 6 goes in here once, 6 goes in here 4 times. One of these ends cancels with one of these. Let's see, n squared, that would make this n squared. 4 goes in here once, 4 goes in here 4 times. Now let's see, common denominator. We've got an n here, we've got an n squared here, we've got an n squared here. Let's multiply this by n over n so we can get a common denominator. So we have a common denominator of n squared. This is going to give us 6n, which I'm going to distribute into here, which would give us 6n squared plus 6n, right? Okay, and then this is a negative 4. I'm going to distribute that in, but this is actually, if we FOIL these out, it comes out to 2n squared plus 3n plus 1. So that's going to be a negative 4 times that, which would be a negative 8n squared minus 12n minus 4. And then here, if we FOIL out n plus 1 squared, that's n squared plus 2n plus 1, but times 4 would be 4n squared plus 8n plus 4. Okay, now let's combine like terms. 6n squared minus 8n squared is negative 2n squared, plus 4n squared is 2n squared. 6n minus 12n is negative 6n, plus 8n is 2n. And negative 4 and positive 4, that's 0, all divided by n squared. Now keep in mind, this is the limit as n approaches infinity, right? So you can see, again, we have a tie between the highest power term in the numerator, the highest power term in the denominator. When that happens, it's the ratio of the coefficients that's our limit. So in this case, it's going to be 2 over 1, which is equal to 2. So what that means, all that arithmetic, what that means is this area between negative 1 and 1, okay, underneath that curve, x cubed plus 1, is going to be an area of exactly 2 square units. So great job if you're able to follow this video. Now, if you want to see more examples, you can follow me over to a previous video I did right there talking about the same topic to get some more practice. I'll see you over in that video.